Well, listen, a young man's night out ended in tragedy when he was caught in the crossfire of two people shooting. It happened in Akron's Highland Square neighborhood, and tonight police say they've arrested a man who's no stranger to violence.
So I'd like to tell you that today's story is the tale of a crime that really couldn't have been prevented, that there was nothing that could have been done differently in the past in order to prevent this outcome, and however tragic the death of Timothy Hutchinson, who is pictured right here, actually is, in reality, sometimes these things happen, and we could just move forward with the justice system in Akron and hope that we prosecute this man to the fullest extent of the law. But the thing is, that would be a lie. That would be an untruth, because the suspect that has been revealed in this particular case is somebody called Deshaun Stafford, and you guys might be familiar with him, or you might not remember him, but you might be familiar with his victim in the past, Ethan Liming, who was beaten to death by Stafford at LeBron James's promise school over a dispute when Ethan Liming's friends were shooting a water pellet gun in their direction. They decided to chase those friends. Liming decided to get out of the car to talk to them, and they responded by sucker punching him, knocking him onto the ground, and then stomping him out repeatedly. Of course, a case that led to non-murder convictions. In fact, the only conviction that Deshaun Stafford, who killed Ethan Liming, again, knocked him to the ground and stomped him out with another person, got was an assault conviction for 18 months. And now that he's out, now that that time has expired from his 2023 conviction, guess what? Somebody else is dead. Somebody else lost their life because of this thug that was released onto the streets by the Akron criminal justice system, and I'm absolutely sick of it. So this is what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
Count one, which is involuntary manslaughter based upon aggravated assault. That is as to defendant Deshaun Stafford. This is the count upon which there has not been a verdict. As to count one, the jury has considered this count for a considerable length of time and reported to the court that it is unable to reach a verdict. The court accepts this in conclusion and finds that there is no probability of the jury agreeing and would declare a mistrial as to count one. As to count two, we, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do find the defendant, Deshaun Stafford, guilty of the offense of aggravated assault. And it goes on that we do so render our verdict upon the concurrence of 12 members of our said jury. It is dated September the 22nd and is signed by 12 members of the jury.
Now, if you guys don't remember the details of the Ethan Liming case, I will break it down for you really quickly and tell you about the media frenzy surrounding it and all the different various people who were defending the murder of Ethan Liming based on the fact that the perpetrators in this particular case were black and Ethan Liming was white. So what is not usually told to people out there in the audience is that Ethan Liming went out with a group of friends. Now, they were being teenagers, they were goofing off, and they were using this like Nerf style water pellet gun to shoot people outside of their vehicle while they were out. Now, it's important for you guys to understand because a lot of people tried to make this a race thing, saying that Ethan Liming was targeting innocent Beba Angel black people, but in reality, Ethan was with another white friend and two black friends also in the vehicle. And in fact, one of the black friends and one of Ethan's white friends were the ones who actually shot at Deshaun and his brother, and this ultimately ended up leading to this altercation because when these two guys got angry, they started chasing those individuals. They ran back towards the car. Ethan, not realizing that this was a serious physical threat, got out of the car thinking that they were horsing around, and he was jumped by these people at LeBron James's promise school. And if you guys will remember, there was a moment in time where these suspects were at large, and rather than LeBron James and his promise school using their platform in order to find the suspects, they decided to put out a post about how everybody in their community, in the promise school community, was actually safe. And it was no big deal, nothing to worry about. It's just relax, everybody. It's all good, because nobody important to the promise school, nor LeBron James, actually ended up getting hurt in this particular instance, even though Ethan Liming was beaten to death. The suspects were at large, and the parents were begging for somebody to pick up the story so that these people could eventually get caught.
It's been 1 week of total anguish for the family of Ethan Liming.
What did he do to you that you deserve to kill him like this? I just can't wrap my head around why you did this to him.
Akron police say on the evening of June 2nd, officers responded to a reported fight outside of the I Promise school on West Market Street. Investigators tell us Ethan and a group of friends pulled up and fired gel beads from a splatter water bead blaster gun at a group playing basketball. A fight ensued, and police say Ethan was savagely beaten to death. So far, no arrests have been made.
So we're hoping that somebody out there will provide the Akron police with enough information to get them going in the right direction and help them solve this case as quickly as possible.
Copley Police Chief Michael Meyer is on the board of directors for Summit County Crime Stoppers. The organization had offered a $5,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest or indictment in the case. Now, 1 week after Ethan's death, Meyer says a group of anonymous community members is upping the ante.
But it only got worse from that point on, because you guys will recall, after they were caught, people started painting Ethan Liming as a racist. Now, of course, this was not justified at all whatsoever. This was a ridiculous allegation. And in addition to that, considering Ethan was out with two of his black friends, who, by the way, ended up testifying at the trial to try to get these killers convicted, they just decided to disregard that. And again, a la Austin Metcalf, make this a black-white issue where, of course, the person who was dead, the white person, was actually the evildoer all along. Now, in addition to that, the charges were actually reduced in this particular case.
But when I asked Brian LaPrinzi in the initial prosecutors meeting that I had with him, I asked him if race made a difference, if my son's skin color made a difference in the way in which they're approaching it. And he said yes.
The Summit County Prosecutor's Office told us in a statement in part, quote, Mr. Liming's accusations are not true. We met with the Liming family and their attorney and explained the facts and evidence which we were legally permitted to tell them about. At no time did the race of any of those involved play a factor in the charges. Last month, Jones entered a no-contest plea to misdemeanor assault charges. He was given a suspended sentence of 180 days in jail and credited with time served. Liming is upset, angry, and frustrated.
A source who was at the initial prosecutors meeting between the detectives and the prosecutors described that prosecutors meeting as being very contentious. Some of the prosecutors wanting felonious assault charges and murder charges, others basically wanting no charges at all, with one of the prosecutors saying that Ethan received hood justice, which was a new term to me. I was unfamiliar with that terminology, hood justice. And that, I guess, implying that Ethan got what he deserved.
Because even though they knocked Ethan Liming out cold onto the street and then stomped him out to the point where his body had shoe prints all over it, they decided, oh, well, no big deal. It's just a regular, ordinary assault. And you know what? Ethan Liming kind of had it coming. And if you don't believe me, if you don't understand this, there was actually an Akron official who said Ethan Liming received street justice. This kid who was beaten to death by criminals, he got street justice because his friends fired a water pellet gun in the direction of the suspects, and these excuses were all added up to the point where when they got to the trial, they were only pursuing assault charges, and that's what they got a conviction of. So Ethan Liming was murdered in cold blood, was stomped out while he was on the ground, and those convicted for this murder didn't really get any serious prison time. And obviously, when you essentially get away with murder, and you are a violent individual who's going to snap on kids for firing a water bead gun at you, this could lead you to, get into other beefs, get into other situations, and ultimately end up killing someone else. And that is exactly what is alleged to have happened in this particular case.
Right. Well, Christy, police tell me they were able to track down 24-year-old Deshaun Stafford with the help of hours of surveillance video and witness tips. Now, Akron Police Lieutenant Michael Murphy tells me with the help of the U.S. Marshal, Stafford was arrested this morning at his home in connection with the death of 25 25-year-old Timothy Hutchinson. Friends say Hutchinson was on his way to meet friends at a bar in the area when two men started shooting at one another. Hutchinson was caught in the crossfire. Police also arrested 23-year-old Imani Thomas on unrelated charges.
Look, when I first heard this story, I thought that maybe, just maybe, we would get some negative attention on this particular suspect because he was allowed to get away with killing a white person. But this particular shooting sounds like some hood nonsense, so likely the victim in this shooting would be a black person. However, even though it appears, based on the reporting, that the exchange was between two black people, it appears that another white person, another young person, was the one who was killed in this particular instance, very much in the same way that Ethan Liming was killed, based on a dispute that they had with Ethan Liming's friends. However, in this particular case, Hutchinson had nothing to do with the people that were exchanging fire. He was just caught in the crossfire. So another reckless homicide has occurred. Deshaun Stafford is involved yet again, and maybe, just maybe, we could finally take it seriously. And again, I want to point out, he was convicted in 2023, sentenced to 18 months for felony assault, because, you know, innocent Beba Angel Aladdins like to knock teenagers out and then stomp them out until they're dead, and that's no big deal. We can't take that seriously. So now this guy was able to kill somebody, again, shortly after that 18-month sentence. He might have even gotten released early, who the hell knows, and we're supposed to pretend like there was nothing we could do, that this is totally normal, that all these different people that are out here grieving for the loss of their friend, who again was just a 25-year-old trying to go out for a nice night at the bar, we have to tell them that, oh, I'm sorry you're so sad, but we needed to give that guy, Stafford, another chance, because, you know, who hasn't stomped somebody to death in a parking lot over a petty dispute, over a childhood prank that, again, is annoying. You shouldn't be doing something like that, but obviously does not justify murder. You know, what are we gonna say about this if we didn't give him another chance? Like, you know, sorry, Timothy Hutchinson, successful young man, dressed well, had a nice burgeoning career, a core friend group that you wanted to hang out with. Sad day for you. You don't get to live anymore because Deshaun needed a second chance. Deshaun, we thought, was an innocent Beba Angel Aladdin, the victim of poverty, and honestly, according to some Akron officials, all he did was get street justice, so maybe, just maybe, they didn't even feel like he did anything wrong when he stomped out the 17-year-old Liming, and now, again, somebody else is dead. Somebody else was killed.
Detectives believe Stafford initiated the shooting on West Market Street by firing at Thomas, and that Thomas fired back, striking Hutchinson.
And again, as you just heard right there, and according to all of the reports, it turns out that the guy who initiated the shooting, the felon, by the way, who shouldn't be in possession of a firearm, is in fact Deshaun Stafford. And it was the firing back in his direction, the defensive use of a firearm, that ultimately ended up leading to the death of course, Timothy. And of course, this means that this guy is guilty of yet another homicide. Because again, if somebody dies during the commission of your felony, that is on you. If you end up trying to murder somebody, they defend themselves and somebody gets caught in the crossfire, whether it's from your bullet or their bullet, in reality, if you are acting criminally in that moment, guess what? It is on you. It is your fault. So yeah, while I'm sure somebody out there is gonna not understand how the law works and not gonna understand what happens when you start breaking the law and somebody dies as a result of that, is gonna say, well, technically, based on what we know right now, based on what is being alleged by the Akron police, it wasn't his bullet that killed this person. So yet again, we have an innocent Beba Angel Aladdin who you want charged with murder, Sean, that in reality, in our humblest of humble opinions, was just out there trying to feed his starving family.
Lieutenant Murphy says these arrests may help bring some relief to Hutchinson's family tonight.
This is something that we're extremely excited and happy about to begin the process of helping to restore and bring some justice to this family and help maybe to provide a little bit of closure for them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there is no justice for this particular family. This guy died as a result of the injustice that was perpetuated by the Akron criminal justice system. These criminals were aided and abetted by the system every step of the way because everyone wanted to minimize this situation where they savagely beat a teenager to death. They looked in the face of his grieving parents and said to themselves, well, no big deal. Honestly, systemic structural racism. Don't be an evil white racist lady who's upset about the murder of your son. We're going to give him a slap on the wrist, and I'm sure it will work out. So yeah, I have no faith at all that they will prosecute this particular case to the fullest extent of the law. And even if they do, even if they get it right the second time, you shouldn't be allowed to stack bodies before eventually law enforcement says, okay, we're going to intervene. Maybe the first homicide should have been taken seriously. Maybe that could have resolved everything. And when I say maybe, I mean 100%. If they would have tagged this guy with a manslaughter charge and gotten him 10 years, guess what? Timothy Hutchinson, still alive. He goes out to the bar, he meets his friends, he hangs out, he goes home. Maybe he has a little bit of a hangover the next day, but instead he caught a bullet because the Akron criminal justice system decided that Deshaun Stafford's life was worth way more than any person he could potentially kill in the future, and I'm absolutely sick of it. Again, this is something that we warn about all the time on this channel. When you don't go after people, when they show you that they have a pattern of violent behavior, when you continuously release them on the streets, they're going to escalate. It's going to get worse, and eventually it's going to cost somebody their lives. And the fact that they didn't do anything after he already took somebody's life is insane in every possible way. I mean, I can't even call him a convicted murderer right now because they didn't even bother to pursue that against him. They were like, okay, just an assault. You know, you just dusted him up a little bit. We're going to ignore the fact that you again stomped out his chest. And again, he had shoe prints all over his body because they just kept hitting him after he was on the ground. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Ethan Liming's killer killing again. Till next time.